Let's be honest, being nice feels good. You want to be liked. You want to keep the peace. You don't want to offend, upset, or cause tension. But here's the truth that nobody tells you. Being too nice is destroying you. Not helping, not healing, destroying, because every time you say yes when you mean no, you chip away at your boundaries. Every time you silence your voice just to make others comfortable, you suffocate your power. Every time you avoid conflict to keep the peace, you're starting a war within yourself, and that's not noble, that's self-abandonment. This isn't about being cold or cruel, it's about self-respect. Kindness is beautiful, but it must come with strength. You can be kind and assertive, you can be generous without being used. Being too nice means you're giving people permission to walk over you, and they will, not because they're evil, but because they're human. If you don't teach people how to treat you, they'll treat you however it suits them. So, let me ask you something. When was the last time you said what you actually meant? When was the last time you drew a hard line and said, "No, this isn't okay"? When was the last time you put your needs first without guilt? If the answer is never, then it's time to wake up. You don't need to prove your goodness by sacrificing your mental health. You don't need to shrink to be loved. You don't have to dim your light so others don't feel insecure. Stop apologizing for having standards. Stop explaining your boundaries. Stop being available for people who wouldn't show up for you. Being overly nice often comes from a deep desire to be accepted, to be loved, and to avoid conflict. But when that desire turns into a habit of always pleasing others, it becomes a form of self-betrayal. Every time you put someone else's comfort above your own truth, you're telling yourself that your voice doesn't matter. You smile when you want to speak. You agree when your soul is screaming no. This isn't kindness. This is self-erasure. And the worst part is, most people who fall into this trap believe they are doing the right thing. They think they're being generous, compassionate, and understanding, but what they're really doing is abandoning themselves again and again in the name of harmony. Pleasing is exhausting. It drains your energy and clouds your identity. You forget what you want because you're so wrapped up in what everyone else wants from you. You become a chameleon, changing your color to fit the room, the relationship, the mood of the moment. Over time, this constant adapting chips away at your authenticity. You start to lose sight of who you really are, and when you spend your life putting on a mask for others, eventually you'll wake up and realize you no longer recognize the person behind it. There's also a cost to your mental health. Saying yes when you mean no creates resentment. You feel frustrated, used, even angry, but you have no one to blame because you were the one who allowed it. You chose peace over honesty, approval over integrity. And that inner conflict builds, it festers, until one day it explodes, either outward at the people who took advantage, or inward in the form of anxiety, burnout, or depression. That's what happens when you make everyone else's needs more important than your own. What people don't realize is that being nice all the time isn't actually kind. When you give from an empty place, it's not generosity, it's martyrdom. When you avoid telling the truth because you don't want to upset someone, you're not protecting them, you're underestimating them. And when you allow people to cross your boundaries again and again, you're not being forgiving, you're being complicit in your own mistreatment. True kindness starts with honesty, with saying what you mean even when it's uncomfortable, with showing up as your whole self, not the watered-down version you think others want. It takes courage to speak your truth, to set boundaries, to risk being disliked, but that's where your power lies. Because when you stop betraying yourself to be accepted by others, you begin to accept yourself, and that self-acceptance is the foundation of a life built on strength, not fear. The moment you choose truth over approval is the moment you stop destroying yourself. You don't need to be everyone's favorite person. You just need to be your own. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are bridges that teach others how to engage with you respectfully. Without them, you're left open to being pushed, pulled, drained, and disrespected. The absence of boundaries invites chaos. It silently signals to others that anything goes, that your time, energy, and emotional space are available to whoever wants them, whenever they want them. This is where self-respect begins to erode, not all at once, but slowly, in the moments you tolerate what you shouldn't, in the times you swallow your discomfort to keep others happy. Most people don't intend to cross lines. But if you don't draw them clearly, they won't know they exist, and even when someone does know and chooses to ignore them, it's your responsibility, not theirs, to enforce them. Boundaries are not selfish. They are essential. They are declarations of what you will and will not allow in your life. They define how people treat you, how they speak to you, how much they expect from you. They are not about controlling others. They are about protecting your well-being. When you lack boundaries, you invite manipulation, guilt, tripping, and emotional burnout. You become the one everyone turns to, not because they respect you, but because they know you'll say yes. You become dependable for the wrong reasons. Your kindness becomes a resource to be consumed, and every time you allow it, you reinforce the idea that your needs come second, or worse, that they don't matter at all. This isn't strength, it's self-abandonment disguised as patience. The more you allow people to overstep, the more they believe they're entitled to do so. But when you start setting boundaries, something powerful happens. You stop seeking validation from others and start honoring your own values. You start making decisions based on what serves your mental and emotional health, not just what keeps others comfortable. It can be uncomfortable at first. You might face resistance. People may react, push back, guilt you, or accuse you of being selfish. That's normal, because boundaries don't just protect you, they reveal who truly respects you. Establishing boundaries is a practice of self-respect. It says, I matter enough to protect my peace. It doesn't require explanation, justification, or apology. It's not your job to make others understand your limits. It's your job to maintain them. And when you do, your life changes. You begin to attract relationships rooted in mutual respect, not convenience. You gain clarity about who belongs in your circle and who doesn't. You feel more in control, more grounded, and more free. Boundaries are the silent architecture of a strong, self-aware life. They are not just tools, they are commitments. Every time you say no to what drains you, you say yes to what nourishes you. And that yes is what builds real confidence, deep peace, and unshakable self-worth. Kindness is one of the most powerful forces in the world, but when it's not paired with strength, it becomes a weakness that others can and will exploit. There is a major difference between being kind and being a pushover. Kindness without boundaries, without firmness, without the courage to say no, is not true kindness. It becomes a performance, one that seeks approval, avoids confrontation, and ends up hurting the very person trying to help others. When you're constantly giving, constantly bending, constantly overextending yourself for the sake of being nice, you're setting yourself up to be drained, overlooked, and ultimately disrespected. The world doesn't reward weakness, it responds to strength. And strength doesn't mean being aggressive or harsh. It means being clear, grounded, and unshakable. You can be compassionate and still assertive. You can be warm and still protect your time and energy. Being kind doesn't require you to carry everyone's burden or sacrifice your own well-being. In fact, when you try to do everything for everyone, you rob others of their own growth. You become their crutch instead of a support. Real kindness is honest. It says, I care about you, but I will not allow you to disrespect me. I value you, but I also value myself. When kindness turns into fear of conflict, that's no longer a gift, it's a survival strategy. You avoid difficult conversations. You tolerate behavior that eats away at your peace. You convince yourself that it's better to stay quiet, to stay agreeable, to be liked than to risk confrontation. But all of that comes at a cost. You begin to resent people. You begin to resent yourself. Your kindness becomes laced with bitterness, and that's when it stops being genuine. To be truly kind, you must first be strong. That means knowing what you stand for. That means having the courage to speak up when something feels wrong. That means being able to say no without guilt and walk away from situations that don't align with your values. It also means accepting that not everyone will like you, and that's okay. You're not here to please everyone. You're here to live with integrity, to build a life that honors your truth, and to offer kindness that's rooted in power, not fear. The strongest people are not those who avoid conflict, but those who can face it with calm and clarity. They don't seek to dominate, but they refuse to be dominated. They give generously, but with discernment. They know that their time, energy, and attention are sacred, and they treat them as such. When kindness is built on strength, it becomes unstoppable. It lifts others up without pulling you down. It sets a standard, not just for how others treat you, but for how you treat yourself. You don't have to choose between being kind and being strong. The most powerful version of you is both, and when you embody that, you stop being nice for the sake of appearances and start being real for the sake of your own peace and power. When you begin to choose honesty over approval, everything in your life starts to shift. No more walking on eggshells, no more molding yourself into what others want you to be. The moment you choose to show up as your real self, with real opinions, real needs, and real boundaries, is the moment you start living in alignment with your own truth. This isn't easy. It takes courage to speak up. It takes strength to disappoint people. But liberation never comes from comfort. It comes from truth. And when you stop hiding behind niceness and start standing in your authenticity, the right people begin to show up, and the wrong ones fall away. Living authentically means no longer apologizing for your standards. It means no longer feeling guilty for putting your needs first. You start to realize that your worth doesn't depend on how much you give or how little you ask for. You stop measuring your value by how well you fit into someone else's expectations. You begin to honor your time, protect your energy, and make space for the version of yourself that you've been suppressing for far too long. And in doing that, you create a life that is yours, not a life shaped by guilt, fear, or people pleasing. It takes bravery to stop trying to be everything for everyone. The fear of being misunderstood, rejected, or judged can be paralyzing. But the alternative is far worse. The alternative is living a life that feels hollow, drained, and disconnected from your true self. When you prioritize truth over acceptance, you will lose people. That's inevitable. But the loss is not a tragedy, it's a filter. The people who truly respect and value you will remain, and the ones who only benefited from your silence, your compliance, your overgiving, those people will fade. That's not a loss, that's clarity. Liberation is not loud or dramatic. It's quiet, steady, and deeply personal. It's waking up one day and realizing you no longer need to explain yourself. It's making decisions without needing permission. It's being okay with not being liked, because being at peace with yourself matters more. This kind of freedom doesn't come from changing the world around you. It comes from changing your relationship with yourself. From choosing yourself every single day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The more honest you become with yourself, the less tolerant you become of things that disturb your peace. You no longer force conversations that drain you. You stop engaging in situations that feel out of alignment. You walk away not because you're angry or bitter, but because you've finally understood that your energy is sacred, that your life is too short to be spent pleasing people who never truly see you. Liberation is knowing that being real is more important than being liked, that protecting your peace is more powerful than chasing approval, that living your truth is the highest act of self-respect. And once you taste that freedom, you'll never trade it for anything again. The core message of this speech is clear and uncompromising. Being too nice at the cost of your own truth, boundaries, and well-being is not kindness, it's self-destruction. Real empowerment begins when you stop seeking constant approval and start honoring your own values. By letting go of the need to be liked and embracing the strength to be honest, assertive, and self-respecting, you begin to live with clarity and purpose. You don't lose people who matter, you lose those who were never aligned with your truth. And in that loss, you gain something far more valuable: your freedom, your peace, and your authentic self. The journey isn't about becoming less kind, it's about becoming more powerful, grounded, and whole. Kindness, when rooted in strength, becomes unshakable, and that is the version of yourself the world truly needs.